Yo, it's Chris. Let's do this. Upcoming games for next week. I mean, what else do you need to know besides Elden Ring, right? And if you're tuning in the next 48 hours, I will have a video separately just talking about what we know about Elden Ring and how it's already going to be divisive. And that brings a whole nother topic of the conversation up because of the reviews that are already out there, or the rankings, I guess I should say, that are already out there on Board Game Geek for things like that and a few other games that just, it's a whole nother side tangent, ramble, rant video I'm not going to burden you with right now. But let's get into it. Let me tell you what you need to know. Let me tell you everything that's going on that I know about, and we'll go from there. So let's do this. So, I mean, first up, right, we're talking about Elden Ring. We're going to start with the elephant in the room. This is Steamforge's pièce de résistance to this point, right? All the comparisons are going to be made to their other video game IPs, though. And so that's going to be the question. How does it compare? Does it compare? There are already, at the time of me filming this, 4 designer diaries out on Steamforged Games' website. I'm going to be breaking those down fully, giving you my thoughts, giving you my insights, and giving you my comparisons already, including one of those being the pledge levels that have already been released. And so I always give them a lot of kudos for releasing the pledge levels for the content. I love knowing ahead of the time. Say what you will about the price point, because the price point for the all-in is over $400. And again, I'm going to leave it at that for the gasps in the comment section below. You can tell me how you feel about that and how strongly you feel one way or the other, because I'm sure you will. But that's the sort of thing you have to wonder about, because they say that if you're going to get one of the other 2 pledge levels, well, one of the pledge levels is the basic pledge level. No one's going to get that. If you're going to get any pledge level, it's going to be the core pledge level. That's going to cost you $179. And that's going to get you 2 essential cores, if you will. And then the other all-in is going to be like 3 additional expansions. And then they're going to be offering a huge, basically $100 worth of content, they say, as an extra expansion that's going to be just stretch goals, or not stretch goals even, but it's going to be reveals, unlocks, if you will, from that side of things. So that's going to be the question. The designer diaries also make it very clear that they are not going to be basing this anything like Dark Souls. So all the concern that are people going, this is going to be, no, they're flat out saying it in the designer's diaries. This is not Dark Souls, period. And they've got a lot of the mechanisms down, sort of like they did with Monster Hunter, in terms of having that information out there as much as possible beforehand, which again, I give them a lot of kudos behind the scenes, but I need to see a rule book. There was a big hype event this past week as well over in England for a few very, very big content creators that went over there. And so you'll see some videos, I would imagine, about the time of this airing, or in the next 24 hours, essentially, I would guess, that are going to be really thrusting this upon you from that aspect of things, so you can know and see a little bit more. But that's going to be the big test point of the market, because this page already has 34,000 people following it. I mean, you can do the math, right? 34,000 people times $429 is almost $14.5 million. Now, if you average out at the price point of all of those people only getting $200 total, which, would account for some discrepancy there, that still puts you at $6.8 million. So that's not an insignificant chunk of money either way. I mean, even if you say, there's only 20,000, because, this is going to be 5 digits worth of backers. It's just a question of how many pile on, because we saw it with other campaigns. We saw it with Osworm. We saw it with all of these other big ones that are along those lines. You're going to see probably 5 digits worth of people. And so even if they only average that $200 price point that I just mentioned, you're still looking at about $4 million. It's nothing to sneeze at. Timing, product, availability, 1 wave, 2 wave, those are the questions that are going to be up for grabs. Are you going to FOMO or not? Again, I'm going to break down this whole thing even prior to the launch of the campaign. Tomorrow's video, instead, is going to be this. We're going to talk about Cube Monster. Cube Monster is a 1 to 4 player game where it's sort of an engine builder, literal builder. And you're basically just taking these cubes, trying to navigate the different towers that you can make within your little city, and trying to go up the track, trying to be the first one to make it to the top of the board. And where the cube monster portion comes in is that when you allocate cubes to yourself as well as to other people, you're going to be allocating cubes as well to the cube monster board that's going to slowly fill in. And as the cube monster board fills in, that's where the dynamic portion of things comes in, which again, I can find people probably being a little bit one side or the other, because if it fills in a row or a column, then event happens, and these events are not good. Now, you can mitigate them by having certain structures or being able to pay a certain price, but if you can't, then it's going to devastate some of the structures that you already have out, because that's how you're going to have to pay the cost in the first place, potentially. So that's the dynamic of what you're doing, and it's definitely an engine builder in those lines. And so it's really an interesting dynamic of engine building resource management that I haven't really seen done in quite this unique way. Again, like I said, hopefully I have my video out tomorrow. If things are subject to change, hopefully it's not the other way around. But their campaign unlike all the other ones that are launching this week, is actually launching on Monday. Everything else is launching on Tuesday. So take that for what you will, but that's going to be Cube Monster, and it's going to be an interesting test of the market as well, with a different aesthetic and a different theme. So there you go. Now, next up, as the other sleeper hit potential of the week, we have Archon Games' Pest. You may know them from like Magna Roma. That's another one of their previous games. And this is a 2 to 5 player game, which is going to be completely a little bit different. It's definitely got the dark thematic incorporation, but essentially there's a plague. And the empire that you are a noble in or a great family in has been devastated by the plague. And over 7 rounds, this plague is still going to be slowly spreading, and you're going to have to mitigate in order to get victory points of restoring this city to somewhat of a greater order than what it already has. You're going to be moving your containment team around the board. You're going to be quarantining, curing, rebuilding, assigning workers, and harvesting for resources. So it's definitely area movement, area majority, resource management, worker placement, all sort of thrown into one. And you get renowned by doing things that grow your house's influence, as well as giving you more actions, generating more resources, and housing more people to save them from the plague in the first place. So going to be an interesting test of the market. There's not a whole lot of other information that I've seen out there from Archon, so we'll see what happens when it launches on the 22nd. The other interesting one on the 22nd now is Galen Games. Scott Alms must be one of the busiest designers out there, I swear. This is Tiny Epic Crimes. Tiny Epic Crimes is going to be you as a detective in a 1 to 4 player, solo, cooperative, or competitive, depending on what mode you prefer, solving a crime while managing and juggling other detective or police type activities that you were doing while you're trying to figure out who the murderer is, and guessing at the very last hour, trying to be the first person that's right and the person that is more right than the rest. I'm not sure how that mechanic is going to quite work if someone else either, guesses before you, if you can guess it before you, or if other people guess at the same time. Anyway, I'm sure it will be all explained. And with all the other tiny epic games, we'll know there'll be a bunch of stretch goals, and the value again is always there. It's just some of these tiny epic games are better than the others, and sometimes it's hard to tell which one is which on surface value. So give that one a heavy look. See, I'm sure that will be in the hundreds of $1,000s too. And I give them a lot of kudos. They put a lot of different mechanics out there. They put a lot of thematic incorporation out there that a lot of other people stay away from. Like everyone's got their lane, and they're kind of going all over the place, which leads to varied success, obviously then. So interesting test of the market from that side of things. The other one that kind of popped up a few years ago was Clash of the Decks from Grams Edition. I think it's the French company, Clash of Deck. And so they're offering a season 3 of Clash of Deck, and you basically have this card-based system, 1 versus 1, where you have this castle in your hand, and you're going to be taking damage, and it moves to the right of your hand. And if it gets all the way to the right, then you lose, but the cards in your hand are also your mana and allow you to play spells and allow you to summon creatures to your side of the bridge on 2 different lanes that you're going to be battling down back and forth. And I filled out this survey like a month ago, and they sent out this thing, like this email, if you had been on the subscriber list or something, and they're like, hey, if you didn't know about this the first time or hadn't played it the first time around, fill out this survey, and then if we think you meet the criteria based on this survey, I will send you a deck so you can try it out before the launch of the campaign. I wasn't one of those people, but that's okay, because I have no idea. I mean, the Board Game Geek ratings for this are not nearly as high as I expected when I glanced over to it. It's like 6.8, so it's a little bit lower from a 2-player game than I was expecting of this ilk, because also those are tending to be saturated in the market, and so people are being more discerning, and that shows. But I mean, the price point, I think it was like even free shipping, or no, this is what it was like $2 shipping or $2 in free shipping, something like that. So it's like really cheap. So they had thousands of people get in on it, and they raised a couple $100,000, I think. And so we'll see, because it was also supposed to be like a monthly release. So this was sort of like the bait and the hook that would get people in. And I just don't know if it's done that, but now we're going to see what the crowdfunding looks like from that aspect as it launches as well. So that's that. And next up we have World Stitchers, which is you are these anthropomorphic, again, I only took that on 2 takes there instead of like the previous 4 times when I tried to say that word in the previous video like a couple months ago. You're these animals that are trying to take tiles of land, grab them out of the air, and stitch them together to create the best land, a la, Carcassonne Isle of Skye sort of mechanism. You get spires that are created, but you also get the natural energy by joining these 2 together that are going to allow you to impress other spirits and allow you to do further actions that are going to be further helpful in terms of getting the lands that you want to form and getting the pattern matching that you want to do in that style. So World Stitchers, this is Broken Mill Games. We're going to see what they have out there. Not too many other games from them. This is a 20 to 40 minute 1 to 4 player game, also launching on the 22nd. So we'll see where that goes. Then also we have, this is another one that I think could be a sleeper hit depending on how you feel. And, you know, the Gray Fox has kind of had some ups and downs as well too, but this is Bazaars of Ubar. And this is going to be another interesting game because I kind of like this as an engine building mythical marketplace Ubar. I mean, it sounds very similar to the other game I just reviewed in the past week of Tabriz. Now, they're calling Ubar the Atlantis of the desert, essentially. But in this case, instead of engine building with resources and contracts, this case you are drafting with tiles from a common area, paying for them with time, and the marketplace costs shift like sands from game to game, it says. You can use trade winds to activate drafted tiles. You manage space on your ship in order to rearrange them as you gather cargo from these bazaars to buy and sell when, you know, obviously buy low, sell high. After you grab said tiles from the bazaar, I mean, you're moving your ship along to the next bazaar depending on how expensive in time that one was. And then you're going to be adjusting your tableau previously and then taking your tableau in terms of the direction of the trade based on the wind that it sort of moves you in that way. The tiles allow you to earn new goods from the supply or to trade goods that you've already gotten to get other more desirable ones. You have to sell goods when you get to the next bazaar that you have in your ship. And obviously the fluctuation values, like I mentioned, are going to be there. And then when you've reached a bazaar, then the tiles are cleared and a new grid is created of the tiles. When everybody gets to the third one, the game ends and you know, score based on who gets the most gold. Now, I know that description isn't probably very apt, but I'm sure with Gray Fox Games, they're going to have plenty of content out there. There's not really any content to Board Game Geek right now at the time of me filming this. So this is another one I could see going either way. I think I'm in the process. I think my order for Ragnarok just got shipped a day or so ago. So I'm going to kind of see where that one goes, and I'm going to see what this campaign looks like, because again, they've had some exclusives in the past, which was part of the reason I got the expansion for Ragnarok's. As much as I hate doing that nowadays, I did. So we're going to see, because also Ragnarok's was to replace Santorini for myself and preferably my wife, because my wife won't play Santorini. Anyway, but that's going to be launching on the 22nd in addition. Now, next up, we have a combination of things. This is from Tabula Games. You may remember their line of games within this series, and you have Mysthea, the solo mode expansion, and you have, I'm going to screw up this name, Icaion, the solo expansion as well. So they're going to be launching a crowdfunding campaign for the solo expansions for both of these games. Icaion being the solo mode for the area control style game, and the hand management more of a Euro game. You're going to be going against the evil villain of Velkhorn, essentially. So if you're a fan of that original game, you're adding a solo expansion here too. And these are both with Turksey. If you know where you're going, you're going to get some quality there. And then the Mysthea, again, is more of an area majority, area influence style game. And you're going to be going up against Malaeth, who is, they say, a skilled strategist and fighter who's going to try to outdo you in controlling these 5 floating islands. That's about all I know from Tabula, so take that for what you will. Last up, and I ran across this just randomly, Crafting Kingdoms over on GameFound is going to be launching a new campaign for bags and playmats for, you know, our hobby. Just glancing over at the GameFound page, I'll put the link in the description down below. You can check that out, but it's going to be launching on the 21st, so this one is the only other one launching on Monday. It looks very similar to some of the other bags we've seen that are out there in the hobby. It looks very similar to the other playmats. And so they've got like this lighted edge though around some of these playmats, and they seem to have a slightly more variation of size, but there's no price point on the pre-launch page right now that I can tell, at least. So I have no idea how it's going to compare to something else, say like board game tables or table toppers, those sorts of things. So we'll see. And I know there's a market for that, so I never see those necessarily fail to fund. I mean, they always do like 5 digits worth of funding. So if you make a quality product, people will shell it out, especially on crowdfunding, it seems like. Take that for what you will. I meant that in every single way possible. There you go. That is the roundup in terms of what's upcoming this week as well. Like I mentioned, check out those videos. Let me know how you feel about the new reviews with the top-down camera as well. I've got 3 videos in terms of reviews coming out this week. Unconscious Mind, Cube Monster, like I mentioned, as well as Soul. And Soul is going to be launching in 2 weeks. It'll be featured more on next week's video as well. So I'll have that in addition. So that's going to be a little bit of what's on the channel. I've got a couple other little things, snippets I've filmed as well that are going to be sort of popping up here and there. A couple top 10 lists, a couple highs and lows, and a couple look backs and that sort of thing as well. So that's pretty much it. Short, sweet, and not too much ranting or rambling in the middle. So you get a little bit more extra time on your Saturday morning if you're watching at this point or whenever you're watching it. So as always, let me know what you think. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you want to see more of. And just thank you for everything in the first place. Stay classy. Have a great day. See you around.